Hello, good evening. It's me, Chris Prack. It's him, Kev O'Sullivan. And it's not the midweek fix, despite what the title says. We're doing a new show, Kev, aren't we? We're doing great games. So,
no. In other words, we're filling time during the summer when there's no football on.
We are, but it's a summer, and quite frankly, we want to sort of talk about things. Now, listen, last time I did one of these shows, or something similar, I upset everyone because I started doing European Cup finals with lost, and people got very upset because it upsets them. So, what we're going to do is each week, well, actually this week, Kev and I have picked two games which were classed as great games. Now, it could be great games in terms of the physical game, as in like it could be one of these mad 5-4s, 9-0s, all those sort of things. Or it could be a great game in terms of what it meant or what it led to. So we picked two games. So we're going to do Man City versus Liverpool from the 15-16 season, Klopp's first half season really for Liverpool. And then we're going to do Chelsea 05 because, quite frankly, it's great fun and I love talking about it. Then, well, I think, Kev, what after that? Last 10 minutes, you guys in the last 10 minutes, we'll let you guys throw some suggestions in, and then Kev and I'll do some research, and then we'll pick from ones you give us. So, but listen, while everyone's waiting, because West Ham have won the Europa Conference League, so they'll be playing Europa League football next year. First trophy in over 40 years, Kev. It's a while, isn't it?
Nearly pushing 50, nearly 50.
Nearly 50. So not the greatest final. Unfortunately, some like all clubs, there are morons there, but for the majority of West Ham fans who were there, I'm sure they'll enjoy themselves. But it's been a bit of an interesting day, Kev. So you've got the announcement. Obviously, West Ham won a European competition. Looks like Bellingham to Real Madrid's done. We all knew that. And Messi looks like he's signing for Inter Miami, which is
in all fairness, nobody saw that one coming. Nobody,
no. We all thought he was going to follow the Saudi money. We all thought he was going to follow the Saudi money like everybody else is doing, which
Yeah, look, I mean, the thing is, but the Bellingham move is huge. Depending on the figures that you're listening to, is between 100 and 150 million euro, with a wage package that I think his gross weekly wage is 400,000 euro per week before stoppages. Now, look, at the end of the day, good luck to the kid. 19 years of age, phenomenal player, phenomenal talent. Madrid are taking a huge gamble on this to work out. I hope it works out for him. I mean, once Madrid came in, and I think I read today that the contract was agreed in April, so that's right around the time when we announced that we walked away.
It's almost like. I actually don't, because apart from the wages, the actual transfer fee, I don't think actually was unrealistic for Liverpool. I just think he went, I'd rather play Madrid, lads. And Liverpool, at least for Liverpool, it's frustrating because we sort of pissed around for 2 years trying to get someone like him. And listen, that's what Curtis says. We definitely tried to get him. But at least, unlike the Schum anything last year, is we haven't left it so late that we've got no one else. So at least we've organised that. Speaking of someone else, though, looks like a Mr. McAllister might be signing soon. He's not signed yet, though. But I've seen something mentioned on Twitter, and you may think this might be the marketing way of doing it. As you said, Kev, tonight's not the night to announce it when you've got Messi signing somewhere, the Bellingham news, and a European final. You kind of don't want that to be overshadowed. But I can't remember the person who put it on Twitter, said maybe McAllister will get announced tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. Because then we'll have AM10 signed at 10 a.m. And I sort of think for the marketing thing, they just love stuff like that. That's quite a clever way of doing it. And also, be a bit of fun. Quite nice get your morning off to a good start.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. The thing is, he's going to be... He was supposed to be in the AXA last night, 10 o'clock, and the medical's done it. There was a report coming out of Argentina from an Argentinian journalist that it was a logistical issue to why it's not being announced tonight. Everything's all done. It's all signed. It's all agreed. Medical's passed. It's just a case of getting it announced tomorrow because he's got to meet up. Argentina, I think, play on Monday in China, or in that region of the world. So he's not. It's going to be a case. The club will want to do a slick media package as well. So they'll want to get all of that sorted out before he heads out. So, yeah, look, I've no problem. I think it's going to get announced. I was waiting all day hoping it was going to get done. But look, I'm pretty certain it's going to get announced in the morning. And the other side of it is, like the time when we signed Diogo Jota, we got one in the door. They're like buses. You never know.
Yeah,
we know we got to sign more than one. So what if tomorrow they announce two?
Yeah, Thiago and Jota were literally a couple of days after each other, weren't they?
Exactly.
You know, so I mean, listen, if you're to believe the rumours, you see, Thuram seems to be the most likely, more than Konate at the moment. So, listen, if you get two midfielders in early, that'd be great. I mean, God, to sign a midfielders, it's a luxury, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've already signed one. We've already signed one.
The beauty of the last 12 months is the fact that we've learned from the Tchouaméni saga that you have to have backups for your backups going into a transfer window. And the fact that if the fee is to be believed, the fact that I was listening to the lads last night and Shawnee was right in what he said. He was comfortable with the idea of paying 70 million for him. It would have been like, oof, 70 million is a chunk of change, but he's that good that you do it. At 35 million plus add-ons, my God. What a deal. What a parting gift from Julian Ward, because he's been on this since February. It's a huge deal for the club. He's probably is going to be the best player that we sign in this window, but I don't think he'll be the most expensive, as the lads were saying last night. Magnificent signing.
Yeah. It's amazing, though. That's definitely our sweet spot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We seem to have signed a lot of players between the mid-30s to mid-40s. I think the bulk that we've signed at that sort of price range tend to be some of our biggest hits, really, don't you think? Diaz, Jota, Konate was 35 million. Salah was around that.
Sadio was in around there.
I think Sadio came in around that. I think Bobby was about 29.
29 for Bobby, yeah.
So we do quite well. That seems to be the new sweet spot.
But
for
look,
us. It's great. Anyway, let's start.
One thing I'll say before we get into these games, make sure you smash the like button first and foremost. Make sure you hit the bell icon, because I got a feeling that if this gets announced in the morning, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Gav decides to just come on and do a show as it's announced or when it's announced or whatever.
He's going to be wouldn't be a bit. He's going to be fuming. He's got no. If he hadn't planned that, he'd be like, "Oh, fuck's sake!"
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if he bangs in a quick half an hour or something, or an hour. You never know. So just make sure you hit the bell icon as well, so that if it does go live, you'll know straight away.
Yeah, Ashley L. Right. So Diaz and Gakpo are both 37 million. That's definitely the sweet spot. So we're going to do it. We'll go back to the 21st of November 2015. Liverpool at the Etihad. Jurgen Klopp is fresh for the job. This is his 8th game in charge. In his previous games, he's won 1 in the league, drawn 2 in the league, and lost to Crystal Palace, which was when we first got the Jurgen Klopp swear. He said, "I'd be fine. I could remember this fucking Crystal Palace loss." That was the first I remember. In Europa League, we drew with Ruben Kazan. I remember being on my brother's stag do for that. It was a fucking dire game, that as well. And we beat Ruben Kazan away with a Jordan Ibe goal. And then we beat Bournemouth in the League Cup. That was actually his first win. So you're going into this game. They had 1 league win under Klopp, which was away at Chelsea, which felt like a big win. But go through the lineup. Mignolet in goal. Nathaniel Klein, Lovren, Skrtel, and Moreno at the back. Midfield, you had Chan and Lucas. And then you had a 4 of Milner, Lallana, Coutinho, Bobby. So we were kind of going into that 4-2-3-1. But I remember at the time, Kev, this is when we're just getting used to Bobby being up front. Because I remember a lot of my friends at the time were like, we're not playing a 4, we're just playing, four lads like the rest of midfielders. We haven't got a striker. But I think this is the game where you're sort of seeing the beauty of having a Bobby Firmino up front, because the interplay in some of this game is ridiculous. The only thing this front three doesn't have is pace, which is what we evolved to later on. But
yeah,
do you remember watching this game? I think I was watching this game at home.
Yeah, I'd have been the same. I'd have been watching it at home. Look, you go back to when we brought Klopp in. It was Klopp or Ancelotti. So at the end of the day, it was you're picking from the tip top of whatever tree you were looking to get. And I remember I was working with my brother-in-law at the time, and he's a massive Liverpool fan as well. And I remember saying to him when the first murmurings were about that we might get Klopp, I said, nah. Look at where we are. Look at Klopp. Klopp is an elite manager. Look at the state that Liverpool are in. There's no way in hell we can attract this guy. And then suddenly a tap on the knee later, Brendan is sacked, and in comes
the infamous Jamie Carragher look.
in comes Jurgen Klopp, and it's like doubters to believers. And from that press conference on, I was all in. It was I just wanted to see how this side was going to evolve and what he was going to do, because it was almost a perfect way for him to come in a way, because our expectations were so low. My expectations were so low. And you could tell when you read out that starting lineup of the amount of work that needed to be done with that side to get it into some way, shape, or form of being a competitive side. But this game was the first game. It was the first game after an international break.
Yeah.
And you're away at the Etihad. And City weren't in great shape at the time either. But at the same time,
I think they finished fourth. They finished fourth.
Yeah.
This is the year Leicester won the league, wasn't it? This is the miracle season.
Exactly. And nobody was in any great shapes. And you listen to their lineup at the time. It was Joe Hart and goal. You had Bakary Sagna, Martin Demichelis, Mangala, Kolarov. I mean, that centre-back pairing is just a disaster. When you go into midfield and you had Yaya Toure, you had Fernando, Jesus Navas, Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Sergio Aguero, and who's that? Rejas? Of Fernando Rejas.
He's the Brazilian defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like going forward, from midfield and going forward, they were a really good side. You had a young Kevin De Bruyne that came in. Jesus Navas is still doing it at Seville. You know what I mean? But at the back.
This one Navas was a winger, though, not a converted fullback. This one,
exactly, yeah. But at the back, you always felt that centre-back pairing could be got it, because Demichelis was past his prime, and look, he was as slow as a wet week at the best of times. And
I think Company was injured, which is probably a big blow for them.
Yeah, well, we saw Bobby in that false nine role really for the first time in this game. Mm. It was, and the game started off with no goal. It was a cross that came in and it went in off Mangala. Didn't have a clue what happened to it.
Yeah, it was a Bobby cross.
Yeah,
it was a Bobby cut back, and he's just trying to get his foot to his clear, and it's a great side foot finish, and you're thinking, what the hell, good start, and then like ever pessimist because of how we were so poor, you're thinking it's a bit early. I know it's 7 minutes in. Fucking hell, gonna have to. And to be fair, that's it. Said on the break they were, they were rapid, but it was kind of we started seeing this upside. I think we saw it more in Europa League. Is on its day, it could do things. Listen, Lovren and Skirtle, are both highly error prone, very much figment of fun for some people. But
we were shy.
But those that day they were brilliant, headed everything, blocked everything, and at the peak of their powers. I mean, look, Dejan stayed on to end up win the European Cup with Liverpool, but that's when he had a proper centre back next to him in a Virgil van Dijk. So you saw errors of that. Nathaniel Klein, he was a solid fullback. I think we all thought he was the next version of Steve Finnan. He just never clicked onto Steve Finnan levels, but he was solid enough. Emre Can, I think, flat to deceive. But
at Liverpool, he did. He's gone on to. He's actually played his best football for Dortmund this season, where he's played either as he's dropped back in as a third centre back in a three, but floats into midfield. So he floats between the two positions. He's actually really good this season. But he's like, as he's matured and got older, he's got better. But in this game, I think it was for the third goal.
We'll come to that. Yeah,
it was when I watched the highlights back of this game, Bobby could have scored 4 or 5.
Oh, he was
majestic.
It was everything but the goal, but the interplay was I mean, the second goal is what you dream of with Bobby, which is Dimichelis tries to bring the ball out, Bobby nicks it off him, edge of the area.
Coutinho nicks it off. Oh no, that was for the first. Coutinho nicked it off.
It's a beautiful ball by Bobby. It's just a tap for Coutinho, and to first Coutinho, he loved the goal against City. That was his. That was one of the clubs he actually quite. But this way, you start going, oh no, this is what we were looking at. This is interesting. And then
you started seeing the high press. But for me, you started seeing the high press, but you started seeing it with a really aggressive midfield three. And it was led by, I think Milner played in the 6, and you had Lallana and Emre Can as 2-8s that were really just pushing
it was Lucas. It was Lucas.
Lucas, Lucas
and Chan as a 2, and then Lallana. Weirdly, Lallana used to play wing, but he played wing.
But he
so
cut inside,
high.
didn't he? He was he was so narrow as well, and he was so aggressive in this game. He led the counter press really well, and
so many times Lallana, he was offside only just every time. I remember you could see the videos. He's saying to the likes of Milner and Klein and everyone, just do it quicker. Do it quicker, because they'd worked out. David Chelsea was a good centre back. He had a good career, but he's at the end of his career, and it was like watching a QE2 turn. In front of him, he was fine. Anything to the sides of him, he was knackered. And Mangala was just a disaster of a centre back.
This was in the period where Chelsea were just buying defenders. They were just buying defenders for fun. There was no plan, no thought in it. It was they were almost there at being a good side. It was, I think, the year before Pep came in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, this is last year. Yeah,
but Texie Bergstein was in at City that year, and he'd started buying for Guardiola that season. Guardiola was already telling him, who to bring in for the January window and who to shift out. So the planning was already underway for what Pep was going to take on. But in that game with us, you could see the international break that happened before the game almost reset everything, and we came back more aggressive with a plan and tried to form an identity out of that game. And it evolved throughout the season. But the Chelsea win, the setback against Palace, to go to the Etihad and win that convincingly, because that game could have finished 6-7, 8-3, and you wouldn't have argued about it. We were that dominant with a side that had no right to be. And you just saw in Firmino the type of player that we thought we were getting from Hoffenheim. He was majestic. He was absolutely ridiculous. Thor said there, Firmino flicking the ball over defenders 3 or 4 times in a move. He was ripping the piss and he was having fun. And
the third goal,
someone said to him, football is fun. Go and enjoy yourself. And him and Coutinho just had a right laugh.
Yeah, and in early interviews, Klopp name checks Firmino a couple of times, saying he's the one he was most excited to work with because he'd seen him in Germany. He said he couldn't believe Liverpool had got him. And he's like,
neither could I.
And he's like, I can use him. But remember, before Klopp came in, he was being used as a wing back, bit of a centre mid. Sometimes out wide. We didn't use him through the middle. He used him everywhere but the position he wanted. I mean, that was kind of the frustration with Brendan Rodgers. I mean, we had that with Nuri Sahin, where we were trying to play him as a 10, and he's never been a 10. He's always been a deep line midfielder. He's one of those players. Third goal, though, Coutinho wins the ball back, gives it to Chan. Chan does a really lovely back heel back to Coutinho, and just a simple pass to Bobby, and it's a nice tap in. And it's Bobby's first goal. Yeah. So we had to wait till November for him to get his first goal, and he just went up another level then after that. But listen, we all saw the frails of Liverpool just before half time, 3-0 up, see it out. Klein and Lucas get a bit of a mix up. Aguero, he doesn't. I don't remember Aguero do many of these, but outside the box, absolutely bangs it. It's a great goal. It's a great goal.
Mignolet had no chance. Mignolet had absolutely no chance. It was Aguero at his best in that goal because he just knocked it out of his right foot and just whipped it. It was a lovely goal. It was a brilliant hit, and there was nothing the keeper could do about it. But you're going in 3-1 at half time thinking we knew how frail we could be.
And we knew how dangerous they could be.
Before we get to the second we were scarred. We were seriously scarred as well. You know what I mean? We were scarred from the Brendan Rodgers time. And the start the Klopp had wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. We could see the progress and we could see what he was trying to achieve. But we thought, he doesn't have the players to do this. No. So it's a work in progress type thing. Well, so we needed bottle.
Yeah, I think Klopp admitted, didn't he? He said the reason he was so attacking early on is he said, I had so many attacking options. What else could I do? I think it was a polite way of saying, I had absolute bobbins at the back. So there was no point trying to set up to be solid at the back. I may as well just go for 5-0, 5-4s, and then I'll fix this in the summer because he was never going to be able to fix that before then. Right, before we go to the second half, please don't forget we're sponsored by bookmakers.com. Details in the description below. There are bookies, they'll help you find the best odds. If you do use it, please gamble responsibly. If you don't, that's not a problem. Gambling's not for you. But check it out. Good stuff on stats. And there's also, they have their own YouTube channel, which Gav does appear on to talk a bit of footy chat. So, second half, it was a bit hair and scaring, let's be honest. James Milner, who'd been brilliant all game, does one of the most ridiculously stupid back passes you've ever seen in your life. And it falls to Aguero and you're thinking 3-2. And to be fair to Mignolet, it's a top save to keep it out. Yeah. But Mignolet had that in him. He could pull off these ridiculously good saves. He just then had the big clanger in him at some point, which this is one of those games that didn't happen.
But so, that save is one of those saves from a keeper where he just gets the ball in midair.
Yeah,
and he keeps it, he holds it, and he starts off another attack really quickly.
The best
exactly what you want.
The best view is you see behind his hand Milner's head in it, so he's in the right position to head it. So he looks so relieved because he's thinking I got away with that one. But
there was another one later on in the half when he made a save and Lovren was behind him.
Yeah,
but as Laszlo says there back then, Yaya Toure was a player. Yaya Toure is often overlooked when you're talking about Premier League centre midfielders. You get the Kantés, the Vieiras, the Roy Keanes, Steven Gerrard, and all of those players. Yaya Toure, because he came to the league a bit late and he didn't really stay, he wasn't in the league as long. Yaya Toure was a ridiculous player. He was an absolute ridiculous player. And the thing is, Kolo was good. Yaya was fast.
Yeah, it's different levels.
Different level. And that City side then had a proper serious side going forward. A young Kevin De Bruyne looking to prove himself. Raheem Sterling after his move. Sergio Aguero was probably one of the best number 9s in the world at the time. And they were still a serious threat. And here we are, 3-1 up, keeping them out. And you go up, I think it was about 10 minutes to go, something like that.
Yes, I mean, sub-wise, just to give you an idea of what we had to deal with. On 68 minutes, Jordan Ibe comes on. He fancied Jordan Ibe that year. He seemed to use Jordan Ibe quite a lot. He thought, maybe this is a player he's going to use going forward, young player to develop. Didn't happen for him. He pretty much went that summer. And then Benteke came on for Bobby on 75. It's perfect for Benteke for once. He actually ran around and actually caused a bit of hassle. He wins the corner. Yeah, he wins the corner. Cross comes in and it bounces. And Skirl, where he found this finish from, fuck knows, but it bounces on the half volley and he just absolutely smashed it in. One a centre forward would be proud of. I don't know where Skirtle found this finish from, but you can relax then. You had 10 minutes to go, 4-1 up. Even this Liverpool side can't balls this up. And it was just
it was a banging finish. But Skirtle had these in him from, I think we were chatting there in the week about a season where he scored a good. If you were doing fantasy football, Skirtle would be in your side because he scored about 5 or 6 goals from set pieces in this. I can't remember what year it was, but he scored some beautiful headers.
I think 13-14.
13-14 might have been.
I think he has about 7 or 8 goals, but he also has 4 or 5 own goals as well. So he kind of netted out at 4 goals. He just won.
He turned and he just swatted it.
Yeah,
as hard as he could. Joe Hart in goal just didn't have. And the thing is, they lost 4-1 in the end, right? Joe Hart had a really good game.
Oh yeah,
Joe Hart was really good on the night.
He's the reason Bobby didn't get a hat-trick.
Yeah, he was. Bobby Firmino that night showed, right, I am the number 9 for Liverpool going forward. Work around me. And we saw him that night we were there in his last night.
Yeah.
And it's like, we just saw the whole thing from that game right the way through to the end. But a majestic player. And he still hasn't decided where he's going. Nobody really knows what's happening with him. I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes next. But, it was just one of those games that I suppose Liverpool got the confidence in that game from the tactics that Klopp employed. So, we can play this way and be successful doing it. We've just gone to the Etihad and won convincingly and should have won more. So it probably gave the rest of the squad the confidence, the buy-in to believe in what he was what he was selling, that it wasn't all turned out as to believe it wasn't slogans and everything like that. Jurgen Klopp was the real deal. And that game signaled the rest of the league that Liverpool are a different challenge, and we're going to be a different side. We're going to be aggressive, in your face, horrible to play against, and the side evolved year on year on year until we won the fucking lot.
Yeah, and, it was just the.
But it all started for me. It all started on that night.
Because that's when you looked and went, I can sort of see how this is going to work. Even with the, I mean, listen, we finished 9th that year, so let's not get excited. 8th or 9th that year. But we got to a Europa League final. We got to a League Cup final, so you could sort of see where we were going. But I mean, this is also a side where Colatori came off for Lallana in the last couple of minutes, and our unused subs were Adam Bogdan, fuck me, Randall. I forgot he even played for
Randall,
us.
Yeah.
Joe Allen wasn't used, and Daniel Sturridge wasn't used, and Origi wasn't in the squad. But you were looking going like, there's a lot of attacking options. Going like, there's a lot of holes in this squad. But you could see where it worked. But you also saw the frailties, which was defensively we needed a few things. We needed a left back, but we needed something better in the middle. And that's when Joel Matip came in that summer, and we needed pace, because as good as that front three was interlinking, pace is king, and we had next to none, apart from Sturridge, who was never fit. Origi was in and out, and that was it. So that's when it led to like the Sadio Mane thing. But this was like early Klopp, and you sort of went, "Oh, okay, this is a bit different. There's something we can build from in here." So, and
that's why we picked that game. It was just crazy, and for me, it was the start of everything. Everything really rolled off the back of that performance, and everything evolved from then on to what we are today. It was. He'd been there like a month. Yeah. In that month, you look at what he'd done, to turn those games from where we were dog shit. We'd come into that season so flat to seeing signs of life. But you go back to the other game we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And you were, we'll flip this now because I'll ask you the questions.
It's my favorite game whistle.
2004-05 season.
3rd of May, two days before my birthday, this was.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the final, okay? This was the game to get to the final. This was the Chelsea second leg, Champions League semi-final at Anfield. Going into the game 0-0, and I'll set the scene because Chelsea won the Premier League this season, their first Premier League title with 95 points. A ridiculous side.
And it was the game before this one. They beat Bolton, didn't they? And that won the game, I think.
Yeah. It was an absolutely ridiculous side. In goal for Chelsea, you had Peter Cech, you had Jeremy at right back, you had Ricardo Carvalho, John Terry, William Gallas, Claude Makelele and Thiago in midfield with Frank Lampard, Joe Cole, Ida Gudjonsson, and Didier Drogba. And for Liverpool, you had Jerzy Dudek, Steve Finnan, Sami Hyypiä, Jimmy Traore, John Arne Riise played left. See, on paper, this looks like a back five, but John Arne Riise played further forward.
4-5. I think out of possession, it was 4-5-1. In possession, Garcia went to more of a 10, and Gerrard just pushed himself out wide.
Yeah. You had Jamie Carragher played, Steven Gerrard, Luis Garcia, Didi Hamann, Igor Bischan, and Milan Barros. On the bench for Liverpool that night, you had Scott Carson, Stephen Warnock, Harry Kewell, Vladimir Smitser, Antonio Nunes, John Welsh, and Djibril Cissé.
I said Djibril Cissé was probably like one game back from after snapping his leg in half.
Yeah.
And Smitser, to be honest, I think at the time he was on the bench. I'll be honest, I think he was on the bench for moral support because I don't actually think he was fit.
Yeah. So we're 0-0. We're going into this game. You arrived to the ground, hour and a half before kickoff?
Yeah.
What was it like?
So it was me with my brother and my granddad who got us the tickets. This is how bad it was. Tickets. We found a picture of one of the tickets. Only £28. Okay, I'm spending that now for the game.
£28 to get. I think it was the Kenny stand. £28 for a ticket for a Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, I was in the main stand, so it might have been £30. But do you know what I mean? Not. By today's standards, quite a low figure.
It's
really.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
but you arrive at the ground. You arrive at the ground an hour and a half before kickoff. What was the atmosphere like when you got there? What was the atmosphere around the ground that day?
Do you know what? It was
when you were in work that day, what was people? Because at the time, Chelsea were running away with the league. They were a ridiculous side. They'd spent a shit ton of money, brought in Jose Mourinho. They were today's version of Manchester City, but running away with it. They were better. They were more complete, I think.
So
in this version of Man City, anyway.
So my granddad drove us there. It was excitement. So I was 20. I was 21 at the time. So I just about I'd met this girl 6 months earlier who ended up becoming my wife. So I was still at uni. So I was still studying. So I wasn't working midweek. So I literally drove home. Granddad picked me up, and we just set off. And it was a real giddy excitement because I'd been looking up to the Juventus game. So it's like, but in my head, and people find this is blasphemy. The Champions League was Man United's thing. Man United got to quarterfinals, semi-finals, won the Champions League because the Liverpool side I grew with the 90s were dog shit, and we were lucky if we got past the fourth round of the UEFA Cup before Houllier came. So this is just like, this is what my dad and granddad talked about, European Cups. This is an 80s, 70s thing. This is unreal. So, but you were a little bit nervous. It was giddy excitement because you're just thinking like, was going to make this, just, make the most of this, enjoy it. I love games that are day-night games, because it's that spring summertime where it's gloriously hot, it's a lovely sunny day, and then as the game gets on, it just goes dark. It's great, but as much as everyone says it's a great atmosphere and all that, it wasn't a nice atmosphere. It was feral. It was aggressive. It was like a nasty atmosphere because it was just a wall of noise.
Like Red Star Belgrade type.
That's what we were trying. That's
hostility.
Like, it was like everyone who went to the ground was just like, you're in the ground and we're making this horrible for them. Now look, did it affect Chelsea players? You'd have to ask them. I think it affected Liverpool players because there are players there that went up levels that they had no rights to get to because ability-wise they probably weren't there. So, that's what you saw. But
Dor makes a great point there, actually. Don't forget, Xabi Alonso was unjustly suspended for this game. Xabi Alonso was picked up a booking in the first game. So he was missing.
Could Johnson dive?
Was missing for this. Yeah,
could Johnson dive, wasn't it? So, and listen, Biscam is a bit of a cult hero because that year, whenever it was in Europe, Biscam was brilliant. And you wouldn't think you'd ever say that about Igor Biscam because he's such an odd footballer. Like, wasn't particularly quick, not a bad passer, okay tackler, but he just sometimes would go on these mad runs. You're going like, I don't know what's going on here. But
he's a manager now.
Yeah,
he's a manager. I think he was a manager for was it an under-21 side? It was a national side, an under-21 national side. His national side, I think it's Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he's an under-21 manager. I just never saw him in that role, but he's very good.
Yeah, but then I guess, so if you spend a lot of time on the bench, you probably picked a lot of this up. There is that side of it. So, I mean, look, back four-wise, I mean, when you saw the team, you kind of, there's none of this, not they have today, Twitter, like this Twitter uproar, fucking hell, look at that. You kind of looked at, well, that is the team, because on the bench, you're going, Sweets is not fit. Kuhl was playing and it was known from about mid-March, April, that he needed groin surgery. And it was, I think they just said it was the gamble of, it's going to go. We just don't know when. And so you got to play and hope it works, And Cisse, the fact he was on the bench was a bit at Stamford Bridge was all a bit of a, we didn't think we'd see him. Because, I mean, don't YouTube it. But the leg break at Blackburn is the most horrific looking thing ever. And no one near him. It's just studs caught around his, and the poor fella's leg snapped. It's horrible. Yeah. So you're thinking,
for me, it's right up there with the Henrik Larsson one.
Yeah,
it's a horrible injury. But listen, we're getting up closer to kickoff now. What's it like in the ground? Because like the noise levels were through the roof.
Well, I was in the old main stand. Ground was shaking, rocking, the old wooden seats. I remember this big, massive bloke in front of us. He brought his huge flag, so you couldn't see the fucking pitch for 10 minutes until he put his flag down. And he was all game, going for it. And the whole atmosphere there, you could see, like Sir Alan Hansen, you could see some of the old legends. I think Ian St. John was there, God rest his soul. And you sort of go, so you had all the old legends scattered around as well. It's just like, it was just, it was just
mayhem.
it was like being a kid on Christmas Eve. God, I need to kick off now. I need to kick off. And it was proper energy sapping this.
Well, the game kicks off, and we get
Liverpool
do you think that what happened? Because we get the early goal, all right?
Yeah,
and
we always
either way, Chelsea.
We always did
either way for me, Chelsea were screwed in this one because Chelsea fans will argue till the cows go home that ball didn't cross the line. It probably was the best thing that could have happened to Chelsea is that goal was given, because there's an interview on LFChistory.com with the referee.
Who said he said check off if he hadn't skipped if the goal got in.
Exactly. He said that if the ball didn't go, if he looked across and his linesman didn't give it, he was sending check off. He was given a penalty. There was 3 minutes gone. Anfield was feral, as you said, and we'd been 1-0 up from the penalty against 10 men.
Because Jaddo probably would have took
crowd.
It. Yeah. But also, I think Chelsea knew they had to ride out the first 20 minutes. I mean, listen, I think Mourinho made some typical Mourinho daft comments after the 0-0, but which probably helped, to be honest, because you wanted to hate him even more, and that was just what you wanted. So Chelsea had to get through the first 20 minutes because that had been a pattern for Liverpool. Like Juventus, they blew Juventus away in the first 20 minutes, 2-0 up, and then sort of managed the game. That was generally the Rafa tactic, which was try and get something in the first 20, and then I can build the side to hold on. Because we couldn't have maintained the 20 minutes we started with for a whole game. We've proven all season we couldn't do that. So I remember. So I actually never saw the goal until the following day. So all I can remember was ball gets in. It's Barros Gerrard, little flick over. You see Barros go through. You think, oh, Barros is in, and I see Czech clatter it. So I'm shouting penalty, and that's when you just scream at the referee. Penalty. And then also all the walks around, we do that, and we've seen. I thought he's running away. And you're like, he's fucking giving it. It's a goal. At first we thought he'd give the penalty, and they went, he's giving a goal. Yeah. So I remember grabbing my brother, screaming in his face as you do, shouting. I forget, my granddad's in the middle of us, so I woke me. My granddad, who was in his mid-70s, was like, "Get off me!" And then literally, this is like. Pre, social media and Twitter, for 10 minutes I was going, who scored? Oh, Garcia. What's the goal like? I don't know. Because everyone was like, we're all screwed for a penalty. So for most of us, we're buzzing with 1-0, but no one saw the goal.
No one saw the goal.
Not the part of the main stand. Because we're in the main stand, back in the main stand, more to Danny Road end, so you can see the Chelsea fans more, but quite high up. We were quite high up, so I actually never saw the goal to the next day. Miles over the line, though. So, but as you said, Kev, as you've seen for my 40th, I've got photograph evidence of it there. I've got a signed Louis Garcia picture of him running off celebrating, so he clearly won it.
Definitely winning, 100%.
So,
but it was. Do you know what? That goal changed the face of football forever, because that goal was one of the main factors in goal line technology coming into the game and being developed.
Yeah,
was because of that goal and because of the importance and the significance of that goal and the game that was in it. It forced the authorities at UEFA and around Europe, around the world, to accept technology in football. Technology was already there in cricket, in tennis, in most factual line decisions. Football was the holdout, and that decision, that goal, changed the face of football forever.
Yeah. Now listen, if you watch the game back when you without any sound on, and you know the results, it's not actually a great game, especially the first half.
It's a horrible game.
Fuck all happens the rest of the first half. But it felt like life and death. I know it sounds dramatic, but that's how it felt, because you were just like, this Liverpool side was 30 odd points behind this Chelsea side. We were finishing fifth. This is the only chance we had of getting into Europe, was getting to a European Cup final, which, to be honest, just sounded mad to say at the time, because you looked at the side we had. But to be fair to them, it's fair to Liverpool. I think Garcia gives the ball away, and Joe Cole breaks through, and he chips it over. That was about it. There wasn't like any big chances. Liverpool didn't really create piss all after it either. I think I think Haman tackles someone, it turns into a shot, but he doesn't mean it. So look, half time, we all sort of, massive roar for it, and you go, right, reset now. This is going to be a horrendous 45 minutes, but it ended up being a horrendous 51 minutes because of all the added time they added on. But you thought, right, what do we do now? Because I thought, same again, but you look at their bench going, what are they going to bring on? Because people forget, Glenn Johnson played the first leg, and he played quite well. Yeah. He didn't even get in the squad. That's how deep Chelsea squad was. He couldn't even make it. I was saying, Glenn Johnson was really highly thought of. He just moved from West Ham. So you were looking at that side going, I know he's a figure of fun now, but Kesman at the time when they signed him, he was top goal scorer in Eredivisie. Ian Robben was still on the bench as well. So you were looking going like, some scary for people to bring on. And look, Chelsea had done us in the league twice. They'd done us in the League Cup final, the whole Mourinho shushing thing. So, you knew this was going to be a tough second half. But the weird thing was, we seemed to limit them to shots from high risk areas. You know what I mean? And like 35 yards out, free kick, trying to take a shot. So, this where Drogba probably wasn't as clinical as he became. Drogba taking a 35-yard free kick, going 6 foot over the bar. He's sort of going, see this all day. The warning sign was the next time they got a free kick, Lampard took it. And to be fair to Dudek, he hits it from 35 yards. It's going bottom corner. It goes through a crowd of 5-6 players, and Dudek sees it late and tips it round. And that was kind of the warning sign of, okay, we need to sort of wake up here a little bit. But look, the back four were immense. Jamie Carragher got his body for it. Hippie headed everything. Jimmy Traore.
Gerrard was all over the pitch as well that day. He was getting his foot in. I think the thing for Gerrard and Carragher, they knew, they were brought up, they were raised on Liverpool European nights and European legends and European Cup finals. So they knew what was at stake. They also knew what they were up against. Was this around the same time that Gerrard was being touted Chelsea?
This wasn't quite muted. It was that summer that's when he hands his transfer request in. So, but there was that concern going in. So
was it Chelsea were still buying all around him, and Gerrard is the best midfielder in the country at the time.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Gerrard had tactically quite a difficult job to do because when we had the ball, I think Luis Garcia was told, push up on Barros, give him a number 10, give him something to work off. So Gerrard had to then become the right mid and cover the whole Lampard situation and a marauding William Gallas. Because let's be honest, we all love Luis Garcia, but he wasn't the quickest at getting back at times when you needed him to. No, it was. But then he also had to fill in midfield. Reece, to be fair, actually did fine on the left. Actually, I think that suited him being left in midfield because it
didn't have the defensive responsibility,
and he was still handy.
Still do a job.
Yeah, listen, right back Steve Ferdinand, he's in the Premier. He's probably one of the best right backs we've had. Defensively sound, attack. Look, today he probably doesn't suit the style of football today, but look, left foot, right foot.
No, in today's game, you look at he's very like a Seamus Coleman in that Premier League era, a good, solid, dependable right fullback who can get up and down when he needs to. But he was defensively an 8 out of 10. He was as solid as his days long.
I love that. That back four was. I enjoyed a lot. Even Jimmy Traore, he was just like erratic, but with his go-go gadget legs, he got some wonderful tackles in. He's just highly erratic, but he was very likable. And
it must have been that you're getting towards the end of the game. It's 1-0. It's Chelsea, and they're that dominant in the league that you knew that it was coming. Yeah. And did they announce 6 minutes injury time?
Yeah, I mean, just before that, the best thing we did was we brought in Cisse for the last half hour, which, if I'm honest, the best thing we did, because Barros, look, he didn't get a kick because it was just one of those games for him, but he just gives that bit of a spark, bit of pace, and you know what? It's probably one time Rafa didn't mind him being a bit erratic. He had just before the 90 mark, a chance that went just wide. He just ran Carvalho Raga, give him something to do something. Last name was Momo Soak on the bench. No, he signed that summer. We didn't have Momo at the time. This is pre-Momo times. Harry Kewell came from. Now this one, it's a sliding door moment. This because we also talk about Gerard Houllier in the Bayern Leverkusen game. When he takes off Haman and brings on Smeeta.
Yeah.
And we lose the game away. Well, 72 minutes, we take a man off because he's goosed and put Harry Kewell on, which is a very attacking sub. That's not a shut up
his
shop.
DNA, was it?
It's not a shut up shop sub, is it? So you end up then having Biscan and Gerrard as a central two. You know, Kewell probably off Cisse, and then Louis Garcia played defensive right mid. You know, so again, it was hard because it was lopsided. But yeah, so when they had 6 minutes, I think a lot was the phrase "fuck off" was quite hard. And this fella in front of me, he was loud, he was boisterous, he was telling Chelsea fans how rubbish they were all game. And at 6 minutes, we all went, "Where's he gone?" And he's in front of us. He just went down, sat like a child, head down like that, and he's went, "I'm done. Can't go with this." 6 minutes, he's just like, there was a few grown men, saw 6 minutes, went, "That's me, I'm done," and just went. It was almost like, it's in the gods now, I can't look anymore. And that's how it felt. And I was fairly behind the angle for that Good Johnson shot. I see it on telly, it still sends a shiver down my spine. Every time he hits that shot, I think, fuck, that's it. Every time he's it knocks me sick. And I know he misses. I know for years he misses. Every time I see it, it knocks me sick. And Carragher
all have those moments at games, don't you?
And Carragher, it doesn't get his. Yeah, I think he said he felt it grazed his leg a little, but he said he even said himself when he hit it, he's just like. I think Carragher said it's one of those moments. Goes, well, if I move any further, it's going to hit my arm as a penalty. So it's in the lap of the gods now. It's either going wide or it's going in. I can't do much else body wise to stop this. Yeah. And it went wide. But you see Carragher collapse. You're like, oh, fucking hell. Yeah, he's thinking. And then. Just before that, this is just before the 6 minutes, we took Garcia off because, let's be honest, Garcia playing defensive wide right. It's not going to work. I brought on Nunes, who, lad who were given as part of the Owen deal. He wasn't the most fantastically gifted footballer, but lad, he worked his bollocks off. And that's all you wanted. It was just literally, will end up being 12 minutes. Just don't give them an easy time. Make it difficult. But for all the madness of Chelsea, they brought an Iron Robin, they brought on Kesman, all big names at the time, all big money signings. For the last 15 minutes, they bring on Robert Hoof. We all remember from, the Leicester days, winning the league with Leicester. For the last 10 minutes, Robert Hoof's playing centre forward for Chelsea. This is 95-point Chelsea. Chelsea battered everyone, lost only one game in the league. It went back to Sunday league football of get it on the big centre-back's head. And literally that's all it was, which... hindsight's a wonderful thing. For Carragher and Hippier, meat and drink. That's what they want. They're quite happy with that. The worst thing they could have done was bring another quick forward on to try and play around Sammy and Jamie, because I think that's what we would have struggled with. So it also played to our advantage a little bit. But yeah, the euphoria and relief when that full-time whistle went was different.
It must have been mental. It must have been mental.
Because after you sort of screamed it out of you, and then you watch other players celebrate, you tear up. You're just like, what's going on? And I don't know what's going on. Like, we're in a European final. This Liverpool, my Liverpool, I grew up in the 90s. We don't do things like this. We don't get there. This is not what we do. We didn't know we were playing because AC Milan were playing PSV the next day, so we didn't even know we were going to play. It was just wow, we're there. Yeah,
it was a Tuesday night. It was the first. It was the first second leg semi-final. So it was what you just wanted to be in it. You didn't care who we were playing. And as it turns out, look, we know what happened after. But I'd urge everyone, go on liverpoolfc.net, lfchistory.net, and check out this game and go to the bottom of the page. And there's a section called Related Articles. Click into that, and you'll see all of the reporters, the match day reporters who were at the game that day. And they all give their opinions on not the match. Every single one of them, to a man, talks about the atmosphere. How Anfield was white hot. It was electric. It was reminiscent of Liverpool in the heydays of the 70s and 80s before they took, while the Kop was standing. And some of the journalists back then, the way they had a skill of writing with words. The words that they were able to put on paper were fantastic. And it's almost a lost art now with the advent of Twitter. But I'd urge every single person to go onto that website and read what was said by these journalists about Anfield and about the atmosphere that night. It sounded amazing. And the thing is, you're going to Istanbul we were still fighting to get into the top 4.
That's my only regret, Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I was never going to be able to get a ticket for Istanbul. I hadn't been to enough games, so I knew that. But that's the only thing, if I could ever change one thing in my life, would have been having the opportunity to go. Avo says, was it the loudest you've ever heard the crowd at Anfield? I never got tickets for the Barcelona game, the 4-0. So for me, it's the greatest atmosphere I've ever been in Anfield. I've been lucky to see some big wins at Anfield, beating City 3-0 in the European Cup. The Villarreal semi-final. I've been lucky. I've been to a few European quarterfinals, semi-finals, big wins. But that atmosphere was different. It was just defiance. It was, I think, as much as I love, and I did love the run to Madrid, I loved the run to Kiev, and you may have talked about about it. It's the journey's brilliant. That's still my favourite, and I always think the first European, if you're looking to win a European Cup, I think you always remember the first one that you won, and it's just that bit special because it was so unexpected. Because to be honest, Kiev was unexpected, similarly to Istanbul, slightly different. Whereas Madrid one, it wasn't quite. It felt a bit more expected because that side was ridiculously good that we had. You're going, we are as good as Barcelona. We are as good as Real Madrid. That's how good we were.
Yeah,
this side,
we were better. We were better than Spurs. There was, there was an interview I read a clip. I watched a clip of a video recently, and it was about that. And it was literally along those lines. Look, we are better than. I think it might have been Trent. We're just better than them. You know, and that's not an arrogance. That was just a fact. Going into the 05 Champions League final and the Kiev final, we weren't.
To be honest, the 05 one, you weren't even sure we were good enough to get out of the group. Let's be honest. We will look at the group going, Olympiacos are quite tough. Monaco are decent, and but they weren't. But that's the level we were at. I mean, let's be honest. We finished 5th. We finished behind Everton. Yeah, that's where we were. That's the side Rafa inherited. Leon saying the Champions League semi-final versus Roma, we were 5-0. Listen, that was a great upset. I wasn't at that one, but yeah. Red Steve, the Europa one against United. I think the Europa one against Dortmund was also a big one. But for me, I've never yet been in a crowd where I thought that's the level of euphoria I felt. Probably the closest I've had to it recently. I know people think I'm biased to this, is probably when the women got promoted against Bristol. But again, for me,
it's a different feeling. It's not the noise from the ground. It's just what it meant. What it means.
Yeah. That one for me was different because it was. I did see the women won 2 women's Super Leagues, but I wasn't really following the women's team as close to them. So this is me first time with my daughter properly following them. So that was the first time I've seen Liverpool women live when I'm invested win a trophy.
Yeah.
So
when you've been to every game as well as different.
Yeah. So different atmosphere, different feeling, but it's that sort of thing of like, I don't think that semi-final will be matched. It'll be some semi-final. If something can match that level of noise,
I think the Barcelona win is probably better for different reasons, but I think the atmosphere. Bear in mind, it was rare enough that you'd have 2 English sides meeting in the Champions League, let alone a Champions League semi-final.
Yeah.
Plus, it was on free-to-air TV, so the whole country was invested in it.
Yeah, ITV. So
it was on ITV. So it wasn't a case that the
more people see it.
It was on pay-per-view or it was on sports channels, what have you. Champions League was on ITV. It was one of the most watched games in ITV in club football history on ITV. The whole country watched, and the whole country was invested in it because it didn't matter who you followed, whether it was. You could be following any club in England. It was red or blue that night. And it was the money that Chelsea were ploughing into football at the time or Liverpool, and it just lit the whole country up. And the fact that, it wasn't a great game. It was a turgid game. But the atmosphere, the intensity.
Yeah, the semi-final at Anfield 2 years later is a better game, actually. The 1-0 and it goes to penalty shootout. As a game, that's actually a better game. Or the quarterfinal against Arsenal, that's a better all-English game. But that atmosphere, I just don't think you'll match it. It's just different. And that's the one of the sad parts probably of the commerciality of football is the loss of European football on free-to-air TV. Because I used to love most that's the thing you talk about: school, college, university. Oh, you're watching the games tonight. It's hard.
Well, Touchwood, we've still got that here. In Ireland, we still have that on free-to-air for Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League. That's all. Yeah, that's all on free-to-air on Irish TV, and it is. Whether you're a casual fan or you're interested or you're right into it, those games that are broadcast live will always create an interest.
Yeah,
so it's important.
That's the buy-in of the free-to-air TV. It's more for the casual fan. I go, I'll watch it. It's a semi-final. But otherwise, people are like, I'm not going to buy BT. That's what people are going to deal with.
Well, we said at the start of the show that we wanted you guys in the chat to let us know what 2 games you want us to talk about next week. But don't put them in the chat now. Put them in the chat when the show finishes. Or if you're watching this, if you're listening to this on Spotify or watching it later on, hit the like button, please. Sub, please. But comment after the show and just leave a comment there as to what games you think are important to you, important to the club. Doesn't have to be iconic finals or iconic results or mammoth scorelines or anything. It's more.
We're trying to avoid finals, aren't we? That's one thing we're trying to avoid.
It's more games that turn seasons and more games that had defining moments for the club, And you just, stick them in there and see what you guys think, and we'll go through it and we'll come up with 2 games out of that for next week. And at the end of the day, if it's something that you guys want to chat about, we'll chat about it. No bother.
If not, we'll pick on own Kev if nobody else knows.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's the right point out. The West Ham game today was on free-to-air. I mean, that's one good thing BT have done, is at least they put all the finals on YouTube. So at least people can watch the finals for free. It's better than nothing, isn't it? At least people don't miss out on watching a European final. They can watch it on a YouTube one. So at least that helps. So so enjoy that. I enjoyed that, Kev. It's nice. It's nice reminiscing of the good old days.
Yeah, it'd be the good old days, and they're still in the 21st century, But at the same time, I think they were pivotal games for the club. Getting to Istanbul. Everyone knows about Istanbul. Everyone knows the hurdles that the club went through in Istanbul. But the road to Istanbul and that game in general, when you think about how good Chelsea were, and you also had it with Man City, where it was the beginning of the Klopp era, and Man City, they were on a downturn that year. But they were starting to build for Pep. So it was pivotal. Those 2 games, I think, were pivotal for the club for different reasons. So that's why we started with these 2.
Yeah. It's mad thing that's 18 years ago, that 05 final. That 05 semi-final. 18 years ago.
We were on the way back home from work today, and they do this. There's a radio station here, Classic Hits FM, and they do pick the year, every day, and it's right around the time when Mrs. picks me up from work. And they were playing these songs, and one of them came on. It was Culture Club, and I just turned around and said, "That's 1983," and it was 1983. And then your man turns around, that was 40 years ago.
I know, it's when I was born.
I'm like, no, that's not 40 years ago. That's like, that's only like 10, 15 years ago in my head. You know what I mean? I hate it when that happens.
I know, it throws me out when you go like, it's about 20 years ago. Yeah, it's like the 80s, isn't it? And you go, no, that's actually not the 80s, is it? That's
no, exactly.
Yeah. You're like, oh no, weird.
It's mental, isn't it?
I've realised since doing this YouTube channel when we've been talking about games from like the late 90s, and then some of the chat going, I was only 2, and you're like, oh god, yeah, that you're going like, shit, that is actually, when you think about it, that is really like, or you talk about TT Kamara, and people going, what's TT Kamara? Or Bjorn Kavama. There's one for the kids to go and YouTube. Bjorn Kavama. He's actually brilliant in the Legends games. He was bang average as a footballer, but as a legend, he's brilliant.
Yeah. Look, don't forget the charity sponsor. Link is in the description. Golf Day is coming up. I think they still might need a couple of sponsors. So if anyone is interested in that, please get in touch with Gav on either through the social medias or at, I think it's LFC Daytrippers at gmail.com. If you can help with sponsors or prizes or anything like that, just reach out to Gavin. He'll walk you guys through. Anyone who's interested in helping out with that would be great.
Yeah, Kieran B saying here, some of my favourite Liverpool games were the Newcastle 4-3 games. There was 2 of them, wasn't there?
There was 2 of them, yeah. Back-to-back seasons, yeah.
Very different context, though, because I was actually the first one's actually probably the best game of the two. Mm-hmm. The second, I remember the second one because Roy Evans tears a strip off the whole team because he's absolutely livid about how they nearly threw a game away.
My lasting image of that game was Keegan slumped over the advertising.
Oh, the horn is like
that. He's like, oh my god, I'm not able for this.
Do you remember the big Adidas coats that like the big stripes up like that? And I don't remember that one. They were great, those Adidas kits back then. They were mad. The world's maddest goalie kits as well.
I like that from Tom Boland. As the song goes, Kev, much too young to be this damn old. Absolutely, my man. I tell you what, it's mental. But Father Time catches up with everyone, but it's still got a long way to go to catch my ass.
Well, we'll see. Cool. Laszlo, I've said a sponsor Gav's way, so you should be one closer. Excellent, Laszlo.
Excellent.
Nice.
Well done. Thank you, Laszlo. You're a star, mate. But awesome. Listen, on that note, thanks to everyone in the chat. As usual, you guys are fantastic. Really appreciate it. All your comments and everything like that. Chris, thanks a lot, man. I really enjoyed listening to that about 2004-05, especially that final. The atmosphere. I reckon it would have been excellent. I honestly think it would have been one of the best.
I could quite happily reminisce about that game anytime. It's the best game I've ever been to, so I'm quite happy to talk about it when anyone asks me. To be fair, even if they don't ask me, I'll still tell them. That's just me. But listen, as Kev says, thanks everyone for tuning in. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for shows. So make sure you hit the bell icon, and I'm sure I've got a few more shows this week. And listen, me and Kev will do this again next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, and so just let us know what games you want to do. If not, me and Kev will do a bit of research and we'll pick two other games because let's be honest, Kev, there's loads of boss games to pick for Liverpool, isn't there?
Exactly.
Until then, take care.
Night.